recently AI. I'm very, very sure that the drone revolution will be named right up there with them. Imagine a world where you can sit anywhere on the planet, and aerial robots are out there actually doing tasks for you. Sounds like the stuff of uh, ancient mythology, when rishis and munis used to be able to control things from anywhere, isn't it? So yeah, in today's session, I aim to provide very broad overview of the past, the present, and the future of the drones. I'll also share some insider insights into how drones are reshaping various industries, and I also would like to provide my perspective about where I see future of drones heading towards. Um, Yeah. So since I'm told that the audience in this session are from various walks of life, so I thought it would be best to start with the basics. So what exactly is a drone, right? So technically they are called UAVs, which stands for unmanned aerial vehicles. As the name suggests, they are simply aircraft without a pilot on board. Any aircraft that can be controlled remotely or can be programmed to fly on its own, so falls into this category of being called as a drone. So whether it's someone flying it with a remote or the drone operating completely autonomously, there's no human sitting inside it, so we can call it as a drone. Now, uh, while most people know drones are these, those small flying gadgets that you see in the sky, there's often a very big misconception that all drones look like this, the one in this picture. But in reality, there are actually many types of drones out there, and this is just one kind, but probably the one which is more popular. This one particular is called as a multicopter, and since it has four, you can see that it has got four propellers, or you can call rotors. It is more specifically called as a quadcopter, quad for four. If it has six rotors, it's a hexacopter. If it has eight motors, it's called octocopter, and so on and so forth. So the quadcopter is by far the most popular type, and it's what you'll typically find if you are browsing for drones on Flipkart or Amazon, or surely the ones you might have seen flying during weddings these days, right? So now, needless to explain this looks like a helicopter, so it's called a helicopter drone. And this looks like a typical airplane, which we all usually fly when we travel. This is, in technical terms, we call this as a fixed wing drone. It's called fixed wing because just like airplanes we fly, the lift or the aircraft is flying because of the lift generated by its wings. So this is different from multicopters or helicopters, where especially the propellers spinning, they provide lift, but in a fixed wing aircraft, it's the wing that provides lift. And lastly, this is called as a VTOL, VTOL drone, which stands for vertical takeoff and vertical landing. It's just a combination of a multicopter and a fixed wing drone, the ones on the left and the ones on the third one. Basically, it combines the best of both worlds. It can take off and land vertically like a multicopter, but once it is in air, it flies like a plane without the need for a runway, actually. So there are countless other types of drones out there. It's not just that, okay, these are the four types of drones out there and that's it. So many of there are countless other types of drones, so many of which are just combination or variations of these four basic types of drones, and they are designed to meet specific needs. Some applications require very long flight time, whereas some applications need the drones to be very, very small. They have to be navigating into very tight spaces and so on. So the choice of the drone really depends on the job it's being used for. Right. So also don't be misled by the fact that all these drones in these pictures look like they're around the same size, but in reality they can range from being incredibly small, um, to as large as a commercial aircraft, capable of carrying hundreds of passengers. So to specifically talk about the four pictures I've used in this particular slide, you can see that the smallest one is about 190 grams, and the largest one is about 500 kilograms. So the size and weight really depend on what the drone is built to do. So While all this might sound very, fancy, very high tech, drones are actually quite simple when you break them down, right? So in fact, I'd say they are probably one of the simplest types of vehicles compared to the ones we are all familiar with, be it a car or even a two-wheeler. These drones are much more simpler than even a two-wheeler that we ride, right? So take a quadcopter, for example, which you can see on this slide. So all it has is four simple motors, right? That spin, and these motors are connected with one propeller each or a rotor each. So when these motors spin, these propellers spin. In turn, these propellers generating that lift. So in essence, this is it, right? So at the end of the day, this is what these drones do. But and there are just few more components that make up this drone. So these, in order for the motors to spin, these motors are connected to something called as electronic speed controllers, which regulate the amount of current that is flowing to these motors. So the more the current, the higher the speed. The higher the speed, the more is the lift. Just putting it in a very, very simple terminology, right? So and at the end of the day, all these speed controllers are connected to something called as a flight controller, which is the brain of the drone, right? So the flight controller is the boss. It tells the electronic speed controllers what to do, when to consume more current, when to consume less current. So it's also connected with, I mean, the flight controller has a bunch of sensors to understand, where am I facing? What is my orientation? What is my direction? It's also connected to something called as GPS, which we all know, which gives it where it actually is standing, right? So in a nutshell, that is it. Interestingly, if you think about it, right, so the flight controller components that I mentioned so far, they are very, very similar to what's inside your phone. And in fact, with a little bit of coding, you could theoretically replace this flight controller with your phone. You can actually put a phone on to these drones, connect your phone with a bit of coding, and you can make those drones fly. So that's how simple these drones are. And just again, controlling this quadcopter is also very simple. If you look at this picture, think of red circles here on the right side as propellers spinning faster than normal. So if you want the drone to move up, all you have to do is, you have to just spin all four propellers faster, so it just moves up. And if you want your drone to move forward, spin the propellers that are behind the rear side propellers faster, so it just moves forward. So similarly, if you want to go right or left, rotate right, rotate left. So it's pretty simple to control it in an essence, right? So, but either ways, I think I've oversimplified everything here a bit too much, getting you to think that this can be done in everyone's backyard. But in the reality, it takes generally years of effort to make these things smart and safe. Safety is the most important term in aviation, in aerospace industry, because there's simply no room to fail once you build this. If it fails, it generally leads to a catastrophe, right? So it's pretty, the devil is in the details there. Again, that's how a quadcopter works. I would not go ahead to explain each of them, but just wanted to give a very broad overview of what these things do and how they work. So similarly, helicopter generates lift as well as the movement with just one main propeller. Unlike four in the quadcopter, a helicopter only has a one blade, and a fixed wing does not have any spinning parts that generate lift, but they have a wing. When moved as fast as it can be, it just creates lift like an airplane, right? So, and here's a very interesting fact that really puts things into perspective. I really wanted to, explain how simple these drones are mechanically, right? So, a car of the same size as a drone may have about 30,000 mechanical components. But if you build a drone that can actually carry, let's say, 5, 6 people, that drone would have less than 1,000 components. So that's how simple mechanically these are in comparison with our day-to-day vehicles today. And if you check Wikipedia, right, so you will find that use of drones date all the way back to 1800s, right? So when there were even aircraft was not invented by Wright brothers, and it's packed. The Wikipedia packs you with a ton of history. There's so much development over the years that I couldn't even fit it in a readable format in one slide here. So it's just way too crammed up. So, but the common essence of all the history from 1800s, which is consistent, is that from 1800s to all the way to early 2000s, it is every major milestone in drone history has been driven by or for military use cases, the defense use cases. So nothing else. There's nothing called as commercial or hobby or consumer use case. So even though drones have been around longer than the commercial airliners themselves, I bet that 99% of the people had never even heard of them until early 2000s. So early 2000s, why? Because the first time most of us probably heard the term drone was during the war between US and, or rather, the war US, waged in Afghanistan in 2002. That's when large drones called as Predators, the ones like in this picture, were used to launch missiles or even to conduct reconnaissance missions from really sitting thousands of miles away, right? So this phase really sparked interest across the world, with many governments pushing to either procure or develop such systems, because everyone, oh, okay, this is the future now, right? So for their own defense systems. And the next major milestone, according to me, was when Amazon made headlines in 2013, when its founder, Jeff Bezos, announced Prime Air, their ambitious drone delivery project, promising the same, like within half an hour or within 1 hour journey to your doorstep using drones. So at that time, we all thought, oh yeah, if such a big person is announcing this, maybe drone deliveries to our homes would become a reality in next 3-4 years. I'll explain later why that hasn't been the case yet. But this announcement and the push from Amazon was a big major turning point, because it really got the private sector. I mean, until that time, it was all government, military, defense. So from that point onwards, it really got the private sector buzzing and exploring. Oh, okay, drones is a reality now. What can we build them? What can we use them for? So that really kicked in the private industry. And then comes what I call the most important player in the history of drones. It's a company called as DJI. It's a Chinese company. They have single-handedly accelerated the global adoption of drones. When they actually in 2013 they launched their first low-cost consumer drone for personal photography. DJI simply created a system that was not only affordable but also incredibly easy to use and also safe. Right? So simple that even a grandmother could fly, learn flying a drone in maybe 2 minutes time, right? So that has been their contribution in less than 10 years, which is from 2014 to now to 2024. Drones have become a household term, and a major thanks is to DJI. They have played a really pivotal role in making that happen. And more recently, and unfortunately, the ongoing Ukraine-Russia war that has brought about many new ways of using drones that have actually changed the face of warfare forever. And it's been a significant development, but I suppose the less we say about it, the better, at least for the purposes of this talk. But just putting it in perspective for you, these are the 4 picks of mine that I think have played a very significant role in the history of drone development. And all of this, imagine the beauty of it, right? So all of these 4 events happening within the last 20 years span. Now, I would, quickly also like to give you a perspective of some numbers where, what is the world we are living in terms of drones. So contrary to the popular belief, the military, there are only 30,000 to 1 lakh drones in operation for the military use cases across all countries today. Although it is quite difficult to judge a right number, but this is the number that most sources quote. There are about 27 lakh drones that are being used for commercial purposes by various companies for various use cases. And just see the context of it, right? In just 2023 alone, there are about 75 lakh consumer drones sold worldwide. 75 lakh just in 2023. So yeah, although the consumer drones phenomena started only 10 years ago, as opposed to 200 years of military history, you can see the number of drones that are just sold for consumer market just last year, right? So the market size itself in just last year in 2023 was about $35 billion. All of these things to put together. So it's real as we speak. Yeah. So now my interest in today's session was really on how drones are actually changing the life we lead, right? So without having, we are not witnessing them on a daily basis, at least not yet, but behind the scenes they are really changing our lives. They are being used by various industries to do various tasks. But at the end of the day, all I wanted you to have in mind is drone is just a vehicle, right? What does a vehicle do? Either it carries people, it carries luggage, it carries something, it does some job. So ultimately it just carries something. Drones, instead of carrying over road, they carry aerially. Drones carry something aerially. That's all, right? So, and what that a particular drone carries, it depends on where we are using it. It could be a camera, which brings to my first use case. So one of the first, as we just discussed, one of the first big breakthroughs for drones in the consumer market was actually photo. Needless to say, it is photography, which is what DJI is also known for. Now, drone is a carrier. In this case, it is carrying a camera, right? So drones really, over last 10 years, they revolutionized photography, right? So in just 10 years, they just changed the whole photography, landscape like never before. And before 2013, you needed a helicopter or some elaborate setup to get those amazing aerial shots that you see in movies and so on and so forth, right? So now it's very simple. A very, very cheap, affordable drone can actually get you capture breathtaking views, whether it's for personal use, professional filmmaking, or commercial photography, anything, right? So, and this opened up so many creative possibilities. The technology has progressed so much that you don't even need to control these drones anymore. So they know which shot to take, when to take, and in which angles. All of this autonomously. No one needs to tell them where and when, how. And I would like to just play this clip quickly, just to give you a perspective of where the technology is today. Just hold on a second. Yeah, you can see this is a very, very smart, one of the very smart drones available in the market. No one is flying it. They're just cycling or walking, running, jogging. The drone just follows them autonomously. They know which shots are the best and what should be the cinematographic effect. So all of these things are done autonomously. There's no remote involved whatsoever. So this is the world we are living in today. And yeah, this has really changed photography forever. Um, the second use case that I would like to talk about is one which is mainly related to civil engineering domain. I'm sure you all would have noticed an instrument that looks something like this: a person standing slightly afar with a scale in his hand, long scale in a tall scale in his hand. It's called as a total station. So these kinds of instruments are used anywhere from construction, small constructions, to building roads, railways, any infrastructure that you need to build, right? So it is used to generate a map called as a contour map that is on the right side of this slide, something that looks like this, which we all, as laymen in civil engineering, we don't understand, right? So imagine in order to create something like this, a map that looks like this for a road, for a new road that has to be constructed, 100 kilogram stretch, it takes about 3 months time. Just and until this is complete, the road even cannot be planned. Forget about building it. You can't even plan the road without creating a map like this, which takes 3 months time to measure about 100 kilograms of new road, right? So traditionally, this is slow manual process, but drones have really changed the game. Drones can survey these, say, 100 kilogram stretch in about 4 days time, 3 days time, instead of 3 months, and they do it with very high precision. They're now being used for all sorts of infrastructure projects like roads, buildings, you name it. you will see drones being used to traditionally do the job that a ground-based traditional equipment used to do. And it's a real game changer for a lot of industries because now we can plan faster, execute faster with a lot of efficiency. Not only that, even laymen like us now can understand the data these drones are generating, right? So instead of a contour map that no one could understand, all you can see a small clip that is being created. It's a 3D model that has been created using data from drones, so all of us can understand, not just civil engineers, and a lot of measurements can be very easily made and in very short time. And this is where aerial surveying is the first use case we served with my first startup that I co-founded in 2014. Radhika just introduced that I co-founded a company called as Aereo, and it is located in Bangalore now. We started with a team of 4 people. Now we are a strong 600 plus people, and we've mapped about 45,000 villages so far in India. Um, it transcribes to about 1.5 crore acres that we've mapped in our 10-year journey. And probably out of the 1.5 crore acres that we surveyed, probably about 120 million people lived in those areas. So this is what we have done in the last 10 years. And when we started in 2014, we were the first in the country to use drones for aerial mapping. So I remember when I used to go use these drones to capture the data. In some of the villages, I've even encountered thousands of people just coming there, and it all becoming an exhibition with people coming to sell ice creams and all sorts of mela kind of vibe. But I think that's all changed right now. So another very popular and a no-brainer use case is assets inspections. So think about inspecting things like bridges, oil rigs, power lines. Most of these assets, as we call, they need very frequent inspections or maintenance. Your rail infrastructure is only safe because it is being maintained or it is being inspected on a frequent scheduled basis. So to keep the safety of its functioning upkeep, right? So normally this would require humans to physically climb or use some sort of ropes. It's really risky, all these power lines and all these things. Definitely time consuming. Whenever you see power being cut in some of the locations, one of the likely reasons also is because some of the inspection work is going on in some part of or the other for the electricity distribution line. But now drones can perform these inspections very quickly and very safely, and they give that data, that look that even people couldn't have, with all that physical climbing and scaffolding, right? So now, drones can really access hard to reach places without actually putting anyone in danger. So it's a huge leap forward in terms of safety and efficiency. Now, and drones can perform these inspections across many industries. I couldn't really put all those industries or name them in one slide. So just think of any asset that needs inspection and use drones to do it safely. Now, you would have also watched on news that a lot of police personnel using drones to monitor crowds, like in Kumbh Mela or any sort of gathering, protests. All of these places, drones are being used to monitor crowd safety and so on and so forth. Not only that, imagine if you own a small factory in a remote area, or maybe think you have a large agricultural farm and you're traveling somewhere. You really want to see what's happening there, right? So what's happening where? So drones can actually help you keep an eye from anywhere, right? So we call it aerial monitoring, and maybe just a quick clip to show you where the technology is. You don't need to. You are no longer needed to maintain the drone, change, recharge the battery or do anything manually. You just need to take out your phone and say, hey, I want to look at my plant. Or if you have multiple drones that are set up in your plant, you just say, hey, what do I have to look at, right? So I'll just play a quick 10-second clip just to. Yeah, you can see that this is called as a drone dock. So your drones sit autonomously within the drone docks. No one needs to control it. There's no remote. There's nothing of that sort. No charging manually or any of those things. You sit at your home, and you just say, hey, where do I have to look at? Right. So just to give you a perspective, this is not huge. The size is just size of a maybe a large or rather medium-sized printer that we all see in some shops, right? So or even less than that. So it's quite accessible right now. So imagine you can set this up anywhere you want in your property. Just click a button and they're ready to give you an aerial view within seconds. Now, and one of the most fascinating use cases that I saw being developed over the last 5, 6 years is in agriculture, right? So probably agriculture, which is more closer to most of our hearts. So farmers are using these drones to monitor crop health with incredible accuracies, right? So in previous days, you had to have someone who is familiar with agriculture, some agricultural scientist who has to come look at your farm, maybe say, hey, this is how much pesticide you have to spray here, this is where you have disease, this is what you have to do. Imagine all of that done autonomously and the data being at your fingertips, right? So they can capture data on soil conditions, plant growth, detect diseases very early. They can help farmers make very, very informed decisions about irrigation, fertilizers, pest control. I mean, this kind of precision, this is called as a precision agriculture. It's really transforming the way we grow food, makes us very, very efficient and sustainable. Although it's not very, very popular in India yet, especially because the landscape in India is a bit different, where all our farmers are very, very small in terms of the land holding they have. The average amount of land a farmer holds in India is less than an acre. So it makes it a bit challenging for them to use from cost perspective, but I don't see it being very far away that where most of us are using this as a common way of as common as a tractor or even more common going forward, right? So along the same lines, in agriculture, drones are also, I'm sure this is probably one of the things that you guys might have noticed in recent times, because Prime Minister promoting, spraying drones left, right, center. So it's good to see governments push there as well. And instead of spraying entire fields with pesticides or fertilizers, these drones can actually target specific areas that need treatment. The drones that captured this data sends the data to cloud. That cloud sends the data to the spraying drones, and they can autonomously go there and say, okay, this is the area that needs pesticides, or this is the area that needs treatment. It all reduces a lot of waste, and also reduces most importantly, reduces the impact to environment, right? So the lesser or the more efficient we are in using these pesticides and all these things, the lesser the impact to environment. So it's not only better for the crops and soil, but also for the farmers altogether in the bottom line. Yeah. So along the same lines, drones are being used for logistics. This is one of the more recent use cases that is still being developed. And you see from anywhere from an e-commerce delivery, e-commerce package, to medical deliveries to remote locations, to very, very large cargo that needs transport from, say, one warehouse to another warehouse. This is the future. You can expect these things becoming as common as agricultural spraying drones probably in the next 5 years alone. And that is where I come to my second startup, the startup that I'm actively working in today. It's called as F Drones. We are based in Singapore, and we were the first in Singapore to commence commercial deliveries. So if you think of Singapore, right? So its shoreline looks like this. There are simply thousands of ships of all kinds, just standing there in waters, right? So this is one of the major sectors for Singapore, right? So why are these vessels waiting? They're waiting to get fuel on board. They're waiting to get toilet paper, food, money, all sorts of things, right? So or they're waiting to be maintained. So all of these vessels stop somewhere between 2 hours to 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, depending on what work they have. And all of these need supplies, right? So at F-Drones, what we did is we were lucky to identify that there are really no alternatives for these vessels to get anything on board, and it's extremely expensive. We built drones that specifically focus delivering uh, all sorts of items to vessels, offshore oil rigs, or all sorts of those offshore related platforms where simply other than using a small boat or a helicopter, there's no other alternative way of using, delivering an item to the end platforms. So that's what my company does right now, and we are operational in 4 countries doing deliveries to vessels, oil rigs, with either us or through our partners. Now, yeah, in the interest of time, I'll just skip a few slides and probably just talk a bit about looking forward, right? So, looking ahead, we are going to see some really exciting developments over the next 20 years. Imagine the development that has happened in the last 20 years, and with the advent of AI, right? So, first off, AI will definitely play a very big role in making drones smarter, more autonomous. Now, and imagine always technology moves faster and faster, right? So the amount of development that has happened in the last 20 years, if we think, oh, that's awesome, that's too much, probably in the next 2 to 3 years, the amount of development would be equivalent to the last 20 years, and so on and so forth. So, and imagine what would happen in the next 20 years, right? So first off, AI definitely without any question. But if you maybe I'll just move to the next slide fast. So this is the next revolution, right? So we call these eVTOLs for electric vertical takeoff landing vehicles for passenger transport. Imagine booking an Uber, right? Today we sit at our homes. Maybe not everywhere, but let's say in large cities, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, right? So we sit in our homes, book a taxi, it arrives in 5 minutes, 10 minutes time. Um, I mean, I'm not exaggerating, probably in 10 years' time, at least in India, in 10 years' time, you would be sitting in your homes and booking an air taxi. That's how common these vehicles would be. It is already, trials have already started in countries like US, New Zealand, some of the European countries as well. Companies like, Joby, Lilium, Archer, whose drones I have just represented in this slide, they are at the forefront of this revolution. They have done a lot of work to push the boundaries, not just from technology, but from the regulatory and compliance side of it, pushing governments to bring new rules to make this happen. Imagine how these could actually change, personal transportation forever, right? So in 10 years' time, I bet you would be sitting in your home using an app like Uber and booking an air taxi, probably just to travel about 50 kilometers, 40 kilometers, beat the traffic. So this is closer than you think it is, probably next 10 years in India. Now, when I've kept on talking, oh, there's so many drones in the world, 75 lakhs sold just last year, personal taxis coming all across, right? So we have roads and traffic lights to control all the ground vehicles, but if there's so many of these drones flying buzzing over you, it's too dangerous, isn't it? So that's where things are happening at a slower pace than we imagined it to be. So there's some world over, governments are working on something called as unmanned traffic management, which is essentially a traffic control for drones, right? So when there are simply too many drones, and all of them being flown manually or autonomously, you need a comprehensive solution that autonomously manages this traffic, increases safety, doesn't make it too much for everyone. You don't. I'm sure you wouldn't like drones buzzing all over. I mean, 24/7 on top of your head, right? So to control that more efficiently, there's something called as unmanned traffic management system that world over most countries are working on. India is working on it as well. You can search this called as Digital Sky. India's initiative is called as Digital Sky, India's version of unmanned traffic management solution. So by the time we see these aerial taxis being very, very common, UTM, that is unmanned traffic management solution, would be much more robust and would be the norm controlling all these things. So just skipping a few slides. Yeah, I would just like to, without boring you too much, I would like to just conclude by saying that, I truly believe that drones will become as common as smartphones or high-end taxis in probably sooner than we all think they would be. And especially me being within the industry, I get to see the trend. I have more of a perception understanding than mostly you have, but that's why I wanted to give my own perspective to you, and they'll become a part of our daily lives very soon, delivering packages, transporting people, helping with medical emergencies, so on and so forth. And the way we think about and interact with the drones is going to evolve massively as well, and they'll soon be an integral part to all of our everyday life. So yeah, well, that wraps up my talk today. So first of all, thank you so much for your time and attention. I hope this session has given you at least a brief overview about where we were and where we are going towards from the perspective of drones. And it's an exciting field with endless possibilities, and I can't really wait to see where it goes next. So thanks again, and I'm happy to take any questions if time allows.
Yeah, you can stop sharing your screen, sir.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. It was a very interesting session, and it's really amazing to see so many applications of drones. Yeah, and before we move on to question and answer session, I would like to request the audience to take 30 seconds to answer a short poll. And the purpose of the poll is to know you a little better so that we tailor future topics that we bring to you. And a big thank you for everyone who has joined today, and to our speaker, Mr. Yashwant Reddy Garu, who have taken your time to grace the event. So I'll be taking questions from the chat box. There's a question from Mr. Sunil Kumar Panchumarthi. Is any training or certification is required for usage of drones?
Sure. Again, there are different categories of usages. Let's say if you really want to use for your personal purposes, and if the drone weighs less than 250 grams, you can do it without any certification. Probably you don't even need a training watch. You can find, depending on what drones you buy, you will have a small tutorial. Nowadays, these drones are very easy to use. So in a nutshell, you don't need a certificate if your drone is less than 250 grams and you're using it for personal purposes. Ensure that you don't fly beyond 400 meters in distance from you, and you don't fly in sensitive areas. Just use common sense. So you don't need a certificate. But if you do anything other than these conditions, yes, depending on what is the use case, how sensitive it is, you would definitely need a certification. It's just like a driving license. You will have to attend a 3-4 days course, DGCA certified course, and you can take an exam. All in all, it will cost about somewhere between 10 to 50,000 rupees, depending on where you take this training, 3 days training. And then afterwards, wherever you are flying, so Indian government has divided the whole landmass, the country's landmass, into 3 different zones: red zone, orange zone, and green zone. If it is a green zone, yes. And if you have a pilot certificate license, go ahead and fly. If it is a red zone, it's a strict no. If it is an orange zone, there are some restrictions to it when you can fly with whose permission. So this map also can be found online. So in a nutshell, that is what it is.
On what basis are the regions divided into red zone, orange zone, and green zone?
So most tier one cities are red zones. Let's say Bangalore or Hyderabad, right? So they are very densely populated areas. So there are criteria will be like how populated a particular area is. whether an infrastructure like an airport or a military installation, natural parks or natural reserve forests, all these kinds of sensitive zones are red zone. Slightly lesser population density, orange zone, but if the population density is much lesser, it's safe to fly. It's a green zone. But you can find that map online. So these key things keep changing time to time as well.
There's a question from Mr. Prasad Sudpaneni. I would like to have your views on utilization of drones in waste management and agriculture and afforestation.
Sure. So, waste management, there are two ways you can use. Again, it depends on where and what you are looking actually. So nowadays, with the advent of AI, computer vision, all these things, right? So your drones can actually classify different waste that has been accumulated. I mean, I'm just answering it very generically here. I don't exactly know.
He has raised his hand. We can ask him.
Sure.
Yeah. Hello, sir.
Very good morning, Mr. Yashwant, and congratulations for the excellent work you are doing.
Thank you.
In the logistics, particularly in the logistics front of the usage of the drone technology. I think you must be really an expert in that, I can see. Just I wanted to know your views on these two. One is talking about waste management. You might be aware about the Telangana government's very ambitious program of rejuvenating the Musi River Development Project. You must have, I don't know if you heard about, maybe aware.
Yes.
That it's a very challenging assignment, considering the length of the Musi, 50 kilometers, is fraught with so many challenges, and waste is a big issue. So I happened to be there for some time at the global global AI summit. It was there in Hyderabad just 1 month back. So there were final year students of civil engineering from a college who made a 3D model of the Musi project, and they had given some suggestions with regard to what the possibilities, where you could really do something about the waste management with the use of these things. So the 3D model itself was made using drone technology with the help of an architect. Now, regarding the suggestions, which I would just, for example, one is the debris collection, the second is the water quality monitoring, then comes possibilities of identifying leakages in the sewage lines, sewage pipelines alongside the riverbed itself, and risk assessment using sensors, because the Musi floods and all the situations. So these are some of the areas which they have sounded. And what do you think? To what extent do you think this could be practically we could go? Are you optimistic in finding a solution? That is one question. And the second question, just that's all. And the other question, maybe you can just answer me in once. The other one is regarding agriculture, and maybe I can club agriculture and afforestation. Because the point I'm trying to ask you is, see, I'm aware that this drone technology has been used, like you said, not so much maybe in agriculture as much as maybe some other countries. But for example, just a few months back in Kerala, the MS Swaminathan Rice Research Institute, along with the Vignan Krishi Foundation and all, they have successfully used drones, for what you called seed droning. Seed droning, they've done it. Similarly, for afforestation also, we for the seed balls, spraying of seed balls, particularly in barren areas and hilly areas where you can't reach, that's really, I mean, it's no brainer. It's really very useful, no doubt. So the question here is, once that seeding has been done successfully, whether it's in the paddy cultivation or whether it's in the hilly areas with respect to seed ball, once the job has been done, I have an apprehension whether the results are successful and fruitful. Because, for example, it's a bit of like you see, whether it's seed ball, whether it's seeds or seeds along with the seed pod, there has to be a certain level of penetration into the ground, right? Which has been done with. So, can we expect to get those good results in the case of I see. I try to put my question. I mean, with everything so that you know what I'm looking at. So I've asked you two. Thanks for taking my question. Yeah, please.
Absolutely. Thank you for question. These are very interesting questions to begin with. So first, I'll just answer on the MooSeed project, some of the use cases that you mentioned. We will maybe I'll just touch upon the waste or debris movement of the debris itself. I'll bring it towards the end. But touching upon some of the other use cases that you just mentioned, all of them can be done right today, very, very reliably today. It could be water quality monitoring. It could be the risk assessments, flooding assessment of the flood situation, and I forgot some of the other use cases that you mentioned that was presented there. All of them.
Sewage, that is leak detection, like sewage pipeline,
Yes,
leak detection,
yes,
and
yes.
Plugging of those leaks, perhaps. Yeah.
I would say
Sewage,
plugging of the leaks is a bit far-fetched. I don't think we have a
Yeah,
reliable
I
technology
understand.
that can be done today.
Okay,
But
identification.
yeah, identification, automatically identify. You don't even need a person identifying it. The drone will go no matter 50 kilograms, 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers. It will just go in one shot, and it'll just give you a PDF report where you can see, hey, where, what, how big, or how serious. All of these things will be auto-categorized, and this is a technology of yesterday, not even today. I would say. Which I meant to say is it's quite stable. It's real. It's as or rather it's much better than if you do it over ground. Even if a person goes there and writes notes down each location, right? So these are all realistic use cases that are already being done worldwide. Number one. On the second hand, there is this debris movement, or right. So now it depends on the larger the heavier the debris you want to move, the larger this drone would be, and the more expensive it is, right? So now technology is not the problem. If you want to build a drone that can lift 500 kilograms, or rather, we are already lifting 100 kilograms today, as Radhika just initially introduced, right? So we are able to lift 100 kilograms. So I don't know if 100 is enough to move at once. Is it 500? Is it 1,000? So it depends on not the technology right now, but rather the cost feasibility.
Yeah. I'm afraid cost effective. Yes.
Yes.
Thanks for saying that. Yeah. Cost effective.
But other use cases that you mentioned, they are definitely more cost effective than doing them in traditional ways. Using drones is going to significantly change the way things can be done, right? So more efficient, more accurate. No one can tamper the data, so on and so forth. On the second use case that you just asked on the afforestation, right? So I would like to bring to the fact that, see, at the end of the day, as I presented, drones are just carriers, right? They can carry some sort of payload, right? If it is the ball, if it is the seed with some sort of pot or whatever, it is that's all. So I'm afraid I don't see drones being used to make them penetrate deep, because they can't just go and dig a hole. At least not today. I don't see it happening over the next 5 years as well. But all they can do is drop whatever you need them to drop, or touch. If you need them to touch, they can touch as well, but not take. So this is where the collaboration, not just with people building drones, but it is a collaborative effort between drone technology people and agriculture. I mean, people involved in this afforestation technology. So they have to bring club both these technologies to find a way. Okay, just if we drop, how well. What will be the success rate? But just to give you an example, China and US, I've read very some time ago that they have probably done afforestation of about 1 million acres of land using drones. So it's not that it's not happening. I'm pretty sure it's a collaborative efforts between agriculturists as well as in the people involved in afforestation technology versus the drone technology people. Drones are already there. I mean, they can drop today, right? So now how well they can do is on the hands of other people.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I think from the what I take away is probably in logistics, I think we are done. We are really probably gone much advanced. Probably in other fields like agriculture and in the field of other civil engineering subjects, including and of course forestation, maybe much more of collaborative efforts and research is
Collaborative.
required. I think that's way we like to say. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have Mr. Shmuel who has raised his hand. Yeah, Shmuel, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. A very interesting presentation. I too very interested in the field of drones, of development of drones. And I want to ask you a question. How, according to you, drones can support resolution problems of poverty and food security?
Right. So at the end of the day, although I don't see drone, at least not now, right? So out of all the use cases that I see, they may not be, you may not see them directly affecting or improving the, poverty levels, right? So what behind the scenes, as I just mentioned, drones are being used to increase the efficiency of farming. They are able to increase your yield. They are able to identify diseases early. That way, you're spending less money to increase your yield and reduce the losses. So ultimately, indirectly, this is definitely helping you with food security, number one. Number two is, for countries, some of the countries, and you'd be amazed to find that countries in Africa, very, very poor countries in Africa, are the first ones to adopt drone technology for medical deliveries, because they're so poor that they don't have roads, they don't have people, people can't afford coming, even if they are ill, they can't travel far. So drones are being used, I mean, they're being used by governments to supply medicines to very, very remote areas to people who are very poor. Autonomously, people can just go to some village head ask for a medicine. That guy will just book something on over a call. The drone will directly deliver within such a short span. Not just that, in difficult situations, drones are also being used to deliver food to remote areas. So as I can just say that the drones are increasing the standard of life of poor people behind the scenes, maybe in a small way right now, but as we go forward, it will really snowball and change, bring an impact much more than they're doing today.
Hope that answered
Yes,
your question.
Yes, answer. Thank you very much. And I wanted to ask another little question. I want to ask you how government and authorities of India try and develop the field of drones. What government of India do for development of drones field?
Sure. It's a good question, actually. So when I started my first company back in 2014, within 6 months of us starting that company, we saw government, because there were some terror attacks that have happened in the country at that time, government imposed a blanket ban on flying drones, or for any use case, civilian use cases or commercial use cases, right? So imagine, I'm a very young guy, started a small company in an emerging field. I don't have any support from technology. No one knows, no professor can help us with our problems. And one fine day you wake up to see, hey, no, we can't fly drones, right? But since then, we've actually come up a lot far. In 2021, Indian government brought in drone regulations, and they are today one of the world's most progressive regulations anywhere, right? So today, I can very confidently say that India is one of the most progressive place for drone regulations. At the end of the day, what can government do? They are not there to build technology, advanced technology, build drones, right? So they are there to help people like us build by making our lives easy, by ensuring that there are regulatory guidelines that make sure that we we work in peace, that encourage us. And at the same time, there are good grants. There is a good support ecosystem. Just 2 years ago, government launched a scheme called as PLI, Production Linked Incentives. So to encourage people who are producing these technologies inside the country. So what government has done is, okay, if you're producing inside the country, okay, so you can take another 6 to 8% benefit in revenues. So these are the kinds of steps that our government has taken over the last 3-4 years. Especially, I mean, if I just have to summarize one, we are one of the best places for drone regulations, very, very progressive ones. There are so many schemes like PLI scheme I just mentioned that is there to help people like ourselves building these drones to reap more benefits. And not to mention, of course, the current government is really, really doing a lot of PR by showcasing drones for agriculture, drone DDs, Prime Minister himself, mentioning about drones being used for agriculture in various forums. But yeah, I mean, I think government is doing what a good government is supposed to do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shmuel. And as it's past 12, I would like to go through the upcoming talks that we have, and then we'll continue with the question and answers. Yeah. So on 19th of October, we have a talk by Mr. Sahadev Komaragiri. He is founder of Soham Academy of Human Excellence, and the talk is on the timeless wisdom from our epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata. So he'll be speaking about ethics, leadership, and relationship lessons that we can learn from our epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata. And we have another talk on 26th October 2024. This talk is on importance of lakes to ecosystem. And as we know what's happening in Hyderabad because of Hydra, she will also be covering a few points on that. And this is by G.N. Padmaja Garu, who is an environment evangelist from Rotary Club of Hyderabad, Abhyudaya. And I would like to quickly talk about our upcoming material drive. And this is starting from 1st of October to 31st of October, where you can donate all your used items like books, accessories, appliances, and many more, which will be donated in turn to other orphanages, slums, and various people who are in need. So your donations will be a treasure to them. So please be kind, and you can find the link in the chat box where you can donate. And you can also volunteer for this cause. You can be a donation point where you can offer your space, a little space where people can come and donate their items, and in turn our team will come and pick those items from you on weekends. You'll get the contact details in the chat box. Yeah, that's it about it. And we'll continue with the Q&A. We have Mr. Mithun Chakrabarti who has raised his hand. Yes, sir. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good afternoon, sir. Thanks for your great insight in setting applications and contact numbers. Previously, in drone industry, I have spent in 1 year ago. Now I'm doing research work in Central University as part of my PG program. I have a small RPC. I would like to go for a small TTT course. Is there any institution offering drone inspector course from South India, sir? It's my question for that. I would like to go for that course.
Yes. Sorry. What I heard, sorry, there was a bit of noise, but I just heard, just let me rephrase what you might have said.
Is there any organization giving TTT instructor course in small category in South India?
Right. So there was one program by AP government probably in 2018. I'm not very sure if it is. I mean, it was organized. I mean, we helped them organize that for about 3-4 months in 2018. I don't know if it has continued since then. But apart from that, I don't think there is any free course. It's more like the government of India has allowed private companies to provide these courses, and there are no government institutions, as far as I know, that are providing these courses. So most of these courses will have to be, paid for. But one way for you to get subsidized is if you are really interested to work with a drone company, let's say by drone company, I mean, if you really want to operate these drones for companies, the companies generally sponsor it for you, right? So maybe you can tie up with a company or start working with them and then take this course on their cost. Or there are a lot of institutions that provide this course for somewhere between 10,000 to 70,000. I'm sure you might have done some survey about these things, but it depends on which where. But if you want me to recommend you to someone, I have a few of my colleagues in the network who are running these institutions. Um, I'll see what best I can do in terms of the cost of the course as well, but no promises there.
Hope that answered your question, Mr. Mithun.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your kind information for this session and waiting for this great application drone industry, drone in the cutting edge drone technology in entire India. It will be benefit for all the sectors.
Thank you. Thank you. All the best.
Hello. Hello. Can you?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Radhika, and thanks, Vishwas. You are really covering up quite a few very interesting topics for discussion. Second thing is, Yashwantji, really you have done a great job because not everybody knows about drones and their usage. It has been explained very nicely, even for understanding by a common man. I was interested in knowing how the government is able to utilize the drones for distribution of medicines to the last. You touched upon just now, and it was interesting also. Government, because there are so many babies are dying for want of medicines, and women are dying, and a number of diseases are spreading for want of good medicines at remote areas. They are called non-communicable diseases like cancer, TB particularly. In villages, it is rampant. And that is where the drones can make a good impetus. And you must be in a position to sell enough of them to government. And government must subsidize buying of these things and see that the medicines are actually delivered to the remotest corners, because even everywhere you can see cigarettes, BDs available. And this medicine delivery should be a very important thing. And the second thing is, as a responsible Indian and with corporate social responsibility, please see that you don't sell drones for delivering military wear, not to kill people. Let it be for constructive purposes. This is where every day we are seeing many countries getting into wars, and many destructive weapons are being delivered through drones. That is very dangerous. And it is not a question of economy for a company, but it's a matter of sympathy and empathy. Please see that you can help mankind live in peace and prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And I couldn't agree more with you on the fact that, unfortunately, a lot of these technologies are being used for destructive purposes. Misused for destructive purposes. But unfortunately, it is the world we live in, and as long as the governments encourage peace, than governments all across the world, right? So encourage peace than destruction. Practically speaking, I don't see this coming to an end anytime soon. And the scary part is that the drones are being more and more advanced. So what we are seeing today is still at a very early stage, right? So come 5 years, 10 years down the line, these could be much, much more destructive. Unfortunately, I do not want to discourage anyone, but in terms of how our world is a bit more bleaker than we see today, but it's just the reality. I hope that we see better times going forward. We don't see a lot of as many conflicts as there are today, at least. So, but I also call all my fellow entrepreneurs to also ensure that these drones are being built only for constructive purposes, or not for the destructive purposes. At least that's the best we can do.
Not for warmongers. And the second thing is, these drones must be utilized by government to deliver proper systems to agriculturists.
Absolutely.
Because not every person who is holding with 1 acre or 2 acres can afford the rates that are being quoted by drones companies for spraying insecticides, pesticides, etc. So best thing would be to see that the government purchase this, create a cooperative, and see that smallest of the farmer gets the best out of such drone facilities. So they must also be enabled with technology, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, in fact, the government is just, I think I saw one of the questions on the chat as well on this. So government is already subsidizing spraying drones. They're probably providing about 40 to 50% of subsidy. So for anyone planning to purchase a spraying drone, the companies selling those drones are already giving you that subsidy that they're directly passing from the government. But it's being misused as well. I don't want to go into those details right now, but I mean, how our society is, but nevertheless. So the government is doing its best to also give the subsidies wherever it could. And to your first question on medical medicines that has to be delivered to remote places to poor people, we are. Probably in some parts of Northeast India, where the terrain is a bit more difficult to travel than us people in the South. There are a few drone delivery ports where, very few. They've just started using these drones to deliver medicines very recently. It hasn't progressed as fast, as quickly as I initially imagined, but I already see governments from states of Maharashtra and even Telangana making some sorts of news and waves where they're trying to call for companies like ourselves to establish drone delivery centers where you have a central pharmacy, very large pharmacy, and you just get an order and the drone autonomously takes off to go and deliver to that location. So you have enough of these central pharmacies. Let's say a state like Telangana, if you have about 6 to 7 central warehouses like these, the drones can cover the entire state. So imagine with just 6 to 10 central pharmacies, you would be able to deliver a medicine to any part in the state within an hour. So that's possible. I think, we'll hopefully in the future we see governments making it a reality.
Thanks. Last one, please. Radhika, senior citizen. Now I want to buy a drone. I have a farm about 12 kilometers away from Mysore. I want to keep a watch on that. What will be the cost for me, and how long will it take? I live about 12 kilometers away from my farm.
Sure. So the one, it's called as a dock. I don't know if you remember from one of the slides I presented. There's a small box within which the drone comes out, right? So it's called as it's called as a dock. Right now, you would not be able to. That dock I presented is from a company, from a Chinese company. There's another company from US. You won't be able to import drones into the country legally today. So, and there are no companies in India which are building, which are at that level where you buy it and it's a very, very good piece of technology. So unfortunately, that is not the case. But I see next 2 years that would change, because I see some of the companies in my network, they're doing very, very good job. Probably they'll launch their products in probably 2 years time, less than 2 years time. So I anticipate the initial cost would be about 15 lakh rupees. now that is, see how it works is if you just sell 100 units of anything that you build, it will be very, very costly, very, very
Volume.
expensive, right? So volume, it's a volume game, right? So if you wait for another 4 years, 5 years, I anticipate it coming down to probably 3 lakh rupees ish. So I don't see it going below 3 lakh rupees. But that to not now. Today it is about 15 lakh, 16 lakh rupees. It would be much cheaper as you go forward.
Distance?
They can cover probably 5 kilometers from the place they can take off. So distance shouldn't be a problem. You can really keep an eye on any sized farm.
Okay. Thank you. Very kind of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vishwa. Thanks, Radhika.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We have Mr. Sunil Kumar.
1959.
Sir, can you come on video? Yeah, thank you. Yes, sir, you can unmute and ask your question.
This is Sunil Kumar, sir. May I audible, ma'am?
Hi,
Yes, sir,
Sunil.
you are
Hi.
audible.
Sir, I am interested in drone. I attended so many webinars, but there are so many applications are explained. The applications that if I want to give service to the agriculture or other field, how to approach, where to approach to utilize these fields
Sure.
by using the drone.
Sure. So I think I really wanted to bring this topic up, especially if you really want to use these drones and provide. Let's talk about agriculture, right? So if you want to use these drones and provide service, like nowadays, right? So not all farmers own a tractor, right? So some of the farmers just hire someone who has a tractor who provides the service, and that guy will come and plow your lands, and you pay just per acre, right? So this is already happening. If you really want to, let's say, utilize these drones and make a small business or whatever size business you want to make, you can definitely, let's say, buy a small drone and keep one drone for each mandal or each, few villages, and you can reach out to some local farmers who have very, very small fields, and they can reach out to you, and you can go and quickly do their pesticiding or spraying of any sorts of chemicals. So if you want to understand whom to approach, the best people to approach is the companies that are selling these drones. So there are quite a number of companies now in India who are selling spraying drones, and you can just approach them. They will be able to give you training. They will include all the training, all the know-how about relations, all the training about how to maintain this product. Like you own a car, basic mechanical stuff. So you will be trained by these companies where you buy this drone from, right? So, but ensure, my advice would be, there are few companies you need to ensure you meet as many as possible. Take a look at their drone, ensure that you are buying the right one, because a lot of them may not be as good as the others. So you need your effort should be in choosing the correct one that suits your needs and something that has a proven track record. Sorry, was I audible?
So your voice is breaking. Can you just put it in the chat box?
Okay. Hello, sir. My
Yes.
final question, sir.
Sure.
Give me some list that is drone companies that I can approach, learn about background and their drones capabilities. I can
Sure.
learning from others is you are an expert in this drone field. Give me some top 10 models or top 10 companies that I can approach to find a drone for suitable
Sure.
agriculture land.
Unfortunately, there are no 10 drone company. I mean, I would say there are like probably 3 to 4 companies that you can approach. I mean, again, it's not nowhere a recommendation where you have to just go there and just buy theirs. I just know that these are the 4 companies who are building decent enough drones, decent amount of do decent drones. So I'll just do I give it to Radhika later, or how do I do it?
Yeah, you can share it with us.
I'll share with Radhika, and yeah, Radhika would be kind enough to share.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
We'll share it to your email, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and we have got some acknowledgements, sir. It was really an interesting presentation from Mr. Prashant. From Mithun, thank you so much for incredible insights on drone technologies and services in current scenario in all aspects. And they're asking for your email ID or point of contact of your company. We'll share that to your email IDs, sir. Yeah, I think we have come to end of the question and answer session. Yeah, so we are good to close the session. And I would like request our speaker to join in the breakout room that will be popping up on your screen, sir. And lastly, to all the participants who have joined, thank you so much for your time, for patiently listening to all our talks. And take a moment to subscribe to Vishwa Talks to get alerts on every new talk that we conduct, different events that we conduct. And please subscribe on our Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and more. Thank you.
Thank you.